Good morning, everybody, and another nice interview today for you. I know we put a little hold on doing interviews for a while, so I hope you guys are enjoying this week, getting back into the swing of things and talking to our friends all around the world. I'm joined again today by my friend and colleague, Reed Cohen. Good morning, Reed.
Good morning, everybody.
And neither of us is anywhere very exotic today. We are both at home. Well, I'm at home and Reed is in Arizona. So that's okay. Sometimes we need to come home from our travels. And today we're being joined again by a friend that we have talked to before. It's a little update from our friend Gabor in Budapest. Good morning, Gabor.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So today we thought it would be fun to kind of continue on this idea of the Danube. We talked yesterday with Katka, our friend in Prague, and we wanted to talk today a little bit about Budapest. So Reed, tell us a little bit about how that works with this tour thing that you and I are doing next year.
Right. So it's the tour is focused on 6 days cruising up and down the Danube River. The tour begins in Salzburg, have a couple of days there, then we join the boat and it sails all the way, I guess that's down the Danube towards the Black Sea, as far as Budapest, and we spend a couple of full days in Budapest and then work our way back to Passau on the German-Austria border, and then we tack on Prague at the end. That's why we were talking to Katka yesterday. So Budapest is prominently featured. It's the only stop on the cruise there where there's pretty much 2 full days. And of course, as we're going to hear from Gabor, you need at least 2 days for Budapest. I mean, Buda is on one side of the river, Pest on the other, and each deserves a half day of walking tour for sure. And of course, that's what we do there. So Budapest, I'll say from my experience personally, I had not been there until we started looking at doing the river cruising at Imprint Tours. And I went there. I was hosted by a couple of our colleagues that Sarah and I know. And the city blew me away. I mean, I thought I was pretty jaded after being in many European cities and seeing one more Baroque cathedral and one more fortress on the hill. But Budapest really is kind of took my breath away from a travel perspective and really impressed me. So I'm excited always that we're able to take people back to Budapest. So that's kind of the overall for the cruise and Budapest. And we've got an expert here. So Gabor, I guess I would start by asking you, like we did with Katka yesterday, if someone's never been to Budapest and they're going to come and they're going to have 48 hours there, first of all, why should they bother to come to Budapest? And then what should they see and do? What are the highlights that they should be doing?
Okay. Yeah. So 48 hours, first of all, is very little for Budapest. There is a lot to see and do here, but obviously you can squeeze in a lot of stuff in 2 days. And so let's start with that. I mean, you will be arriving on the boat, so you are arriving in the most possible or the most scenic way possible. I would first of all recommend everybody to be on board, be awake, be outside, in the fresh air when you guys are arriving into the city. You'll be coming from Vienna, so you'll be entering the city from north, passing through the different bridges. The islands will appear, Margaret Island and Margaret Bridge, the Parliament on the left side, and then the castle building on the Buda side. So it's going to be a breathtaking arrival. It's going to be pretty incredible. And I would say it almost doesn't matter what time of the day it would be, whether it's the morning when the sun is just rising, whether it's daytime, whether the sun is setting, or whether it's at night. The Danube and the Danube in Budapest is beautiful at all hours. And so just that will be pretty amazing, and that will be already worth your trip, I would say, because it's a very really breathtaking view and way to arrive into a major European capital. Yes, the city is divided into 2 main parts. The western side of town and the older part is the Buda side, That's where the royal palace is built. That's where the castle hill is. There are a couple of different Turkish baths there. And maybe it's a little bit more laid back and a little bit more green and a little bit more residential part of town. And maybe you should start on the Buda side. That could be day one or one of your first tours that you take, because if you go up in the royal, well, not the royal palace, but the Buda castle, then you'll get an amazing view of almost the entire town. And you'll probably see your ship, docked on the Danube. You'll see a big chunk of the river, the different hills, and you'll see the whole Pest side of town, which is more flat, and where a lot of the sites are located that you can later see. Once you are in the Buda castle, I also recommend that you don't just look at the side where the Danube is. That's where everybody's going. That's where you see Matthias Church, Fishermans Bastion. So some of the major sites are there, and that is definitely the famous panorama of Budapest, with the Danube. But once you're up there, I would also recommend to see, and it's really just a 5-minute walk, to look out on the western walls of the Buda castle, and look over the dozens or about a dozen different hills that are tucked away in the Buda hills, and you would never know. You can get a feel how big the city is, and you'll see a more residential area where there are not really any tourist attractions, but it's just a really picturesque site with a lot of green area, a lot of beautiful houses, churches popping up here and there. And so take an extra 15 minutes and look out from the opposite side of the castle, not just the Danube side. You should do both. And once you did this, you'll get a feel of the city, and then either the same day or maybe the next day you can do a lot of walking on the Pest side as well. There is a bunch of things to see, things to eat, things to drink, and a bunch of reasons. You asked me why you should come to Budapest. Well, there are many reasons. I mean, Budapest is actually a very eclectic city in terms of architecture. So if you like architecture, that's a good reason to come here. If you like history, that's a good reason to come here. So Budapest is not just about architecture; it's also a lot about history. I mean, 2 world wars happened here. We had communism. We had the different kinds of regimes here. The Habsburgs. Prior to that, we had the Ottoman Turks. The old part of town, the Old Buda was founded by the Romans. So there are many layers of history here that you can feel and read up on before you come here, and then witness it here on the streets and in our cuisine as well. So architecture, history, there's a lot of food and great wine here. Hungarian cuisine is fairly well known. Our signature dish is the gulyás, or one of the signature dishes. But there's a lot more to Hungarian cuisine. And if you like to eat, you'll be in heaven. Well, we don't just eat; we also drink. We have a bunch of different national drinks, including wine, which I'm having right now. So
hey, that's not fair. That's not fair. We don't have wine. It's morning.
It's totally fair
because water here.
It's totally fair because it's 7 o'clock here, 7 p.m. So just wait until your turn.
So
Okay.
Gabor, just so people that are watching know, your company focuses on this very thing, right? You do mostly food and wine tours.
Yes. So our company is called Tastehungary, and we started in 2008 with pretty much one mission and one purpose: to spread the word and educate people on Hungarian food and wine. My wife and business partner is from the US. So we were living there for a bunch of time back many years ago, decades ago. And when we moved here and got married, then we were both fans of Hungarian food and wine, or actually just food and wine at the time mostly. And we realized that nobody really knows about the amazing dishes we have here, the ingredients, and the amazing wines and grape varieties that we have here. So, well, she wrote books on this, and then we also started a company because we felt that there's a language barrier. There is this is a small sort of remote little country, and people need a little bit of help, a little bit of push. And once they have the first sip of wine or the first sip of their goulash or whatever dish they are getting, then people are generally very, very excited and very happy.
Oh, that's so cool. And actually, that was a really early moment to be starting a food tour company, because I don't remember back in 2006, 2007, anybody doing that really. I mean,
yeah, we did when this was on the side. So we both had different, jobs. Carolyn, my wife, was a writer, which greatly helped, to start a business and make a proper professional website. And I was a teacher. So this was totally on the side, and that helped. But I have to say, it picked up in a couple of years, and it became a full-time job within a couple of years. And then when people asked us what we do, they were surprised that we're not starving to death trying to sell Hungarian food and wine tours.
Really? Oh, how interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's so trendy now. Everybody wants to do food and wine tours. So I mean, that's very forward thinking to have figured that out, especially in a country that's maybe not famous for their food and wine.
Yeah, I know. And it's really flattering that you say it's forward thinking. I should agree to that, but it's more just really our interest. I love history and I love architecture and everything, but I would not have the drive to dig into that kind of subject the way we dug into food and wine.
Yeah, well, and this is very consistent though, because you and Andrew, my other business partner, you guys have known each other for a really long time, and it's the same. What I think is really cool is all the people that we've met throughout our travels and our work who do what they do because they love it. It's not necessarily because it's like a money-making thing, but it's just their passion. So I know you guys are really passionate about the food and wine that you do. So could you tell us just a little bit about what kind of food and wine tours you do, so that if people who are watching are going to Budapest, they could book something?
So we try to cover as much as we can, maybe too much, on the tourism and tasting side. We do a bunch of different walking tours. So our most popular tour is a 4-hour long tour called Culinary Walk, simply Culinary Walk. Actually, that shows that when we started, this was our very first walk in 2008, and the tour has not changed really significantly ever since, because it was like a home run. That's how I think Americans would say it. And we just simply called it Culinary Walk because there were no other culinary walks. Today, people would probably call it something else, focus. But anyway, that's just how we named it, because that was the culinary walk of Budapest. Now there are multiple different ones. So anyway, the Culinary Walk is focusing on traditional Hungarian cuisine, 4-hour long. Half of it is spent at the central market of Budapest, which is like a cathedral to food and farm produce. We do a bunch of different tastings there, pickles, charcuterie, a couple of drinks, a little bit of langosh, this fried dough that we eat a bunch here. Then we have a traditional lunch at a butcher. Then we go to a coffee house. Budapest is home to dozens and dozens of traditional coffee houses, and many of them date back, a century or so. So we have some traditional cakes here, and then we finish with a wine tasting at our own spot. We opened tasting cellar in 2014 called the Tasting Table, and that's where we finished with a wine tasting. So it's sort of like a quick overview of traditional Hungarian cuisine and ingredients. Then we have a couple of different walks. We have a Jewish cuisine and culture walk, which focuses on the long history of Hungarian Jewish traditions and life. And we have a traditional Hungarian Jewish lunch. So that's another popular walking tour. We do a lot of wine tours. So Hungary is actually a really great wine tourism destination. Budapest is located in the center of the country, and you can do day trips very, very easily to pretty much any wine regions in Hungary. So we do a lot of those. And we have our own wine tasting cellar here and wine shop. So we do tastings here about twice a day. We have a 3 p.m. and a 6 p.m. tastings, and at our wine shop you can just walk in and have a glass of wine or have a sip of wine, the wines that we have open. So we also do vacations, but that's typically private for families or groups. And I would say we cover wine tourism as long as you come into our shop and you have a sip of wine and maybe walk out with a bottle of wine, to as long as like a 10-day long vacation here in Hungary or in the region.
That's cool. So if people are coming and they're doing just Hungary, then they can contact you about doing something bigger. That's really cool.
Of course. Yeah.
So one of the things I think that I remember the most about my travels in Hungary that I think you would relate to is I remember the wine being really good, which is such a surprise because people, I think when they think of European wine, they think France, they think Italy or Spain. But you're also very well known for really good quality wines, especially from, I think it's the East. Isn't that right?
The Tokaj region, I think
Yes.
you might be thinking of, which is in northeastern Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
It's our northern and easternmost wine region. And it's been sort of a luxury sweet wine for centuries. That is, I would say, the most famous Hungarian wine at the moment, and maybe for the past 500 years that has been the case. We make all kinds of wines, white, red, rosé, sweet, but Tokaj is really the crown jewel of Hungarian winemaking. It's one of a kind. And yes, it gets us into many Michelin star restaurants all over the world, and wine shops. If a wine shop carries one Hungarian bottle, it's going to be a sweet Tokaj.
But I have a feeling
yep.
you have one you like better, though.
I'm sorry?
I have a feeling there's a wine from Hungary you like better than that, though.
Well, I actually love Tokaj on all different levels. My favorite Hungarian wine, if I have to pick one, that would be a dry Tokaj, actually. So it would be coming from the same region, but that would be a dry, typically a Furmint. Furmint is the name of the grape variety, Furmint, and it's a very important Hungarian grape. It's grown all over the country, but it's most important in the Tokaj region. 70% of the production there is Furmint, and with the high acidity, this is a very important ingredient to the sweet wine, because of Furmint. It's not just any sweet wine; it's a sweet wine with great balance between acidity and sweetness. And when they make it dry, then it has a lot of beautiful grapefruit, green apple, kiwi, these kind of aromas, and it's an amazing dry wine, which is what I'm sipping right now.
Oh, just make us really jealous. So Reid, do you have any experience with the food and the wines of Hungary?
I don't, but I'm getting pretty excited just hearing Gabor talk about it, because one of the things about a cruise is that everything takes place on board. Of course, you're there, you're going out seeing the sights, but every meal takes place on board. And one of the things that I like about Lufner is that they're crafting their menu every day to where you are. So I know when we're in Budapest, dinner and lunch are going to be Hungarian food, Hungarian dishes and whatnot. They'll serve Hungarian wines at dinner that night. But what I'm kind of getting fired up about here is I'm always looking for places to add value to our tours. I mean, I think that we need to work with Gabor and figure out what we can add to our time in Budapest with his organization. I don't know what, a wine tasting, or maybe they'll make strudel for us, or borscht, or right now this is the first time I've thought about this, but I think we should definitely talk about what we could add to our itinerary so that we're getting more of a hands-on, genuine connection to the Hungarian culture, not just what the chef is making on the boat.
I totally agree.
Does that sound good to you, Gabor? Can we work something out on that?
I already have a suggestion.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Why don't you guys come to our cellar? It's very, centrally located. It's a 150-year-old wine cellar with bricks and everything. It's right below me. This is our office, and we could have an amazing wine dinner. We have a chef that we work with, and he could do a little cooking demonstration, and I can do the wine tasting part.
Sold.
Yeah, easy.
So now you got a group coming in September of 2023. Just FYI.
Okay. I'll send you a link for the deposit soon.
Very cool. No, I'm serious. Like, I think that would be really great, because I really am getting to be more and more sold on this idea of doing these food tours. I mean, I know, like, my friend in Palermo, Domenico, who does a walking tour, he calls it a food tour, but it's really a historical walking tour also, because it's these things where you learn about the city through the food, which I think is so cool, because it's sort of, I think it's like walking and chewing gum at the same time. Like, you learn things through food, like people who are taste oriented, you'll remember things better somehow, I think. Well, food and wine is always such a big part of a place, or beer, if you're in the Czech Republic or Germany. But I mean, I'm not a foodie. I'm not big on wine or whatever, but it absolutely adds to everybody's experience. So yeah, let's make this the best couple of days possible in Budapest. So I'm pretty excited. And also, I have to say, this is the way I think really great ideas happen for our tours and our tour company is spontaneously. You meet the right person, you make connections, and you have an idea and you run with it. So I'm going to officially say, I don't know what the end product's going to look like, but we're going to do something. We're going to do something with Gabor on this Danube cruise in September of 2020.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I'm curious, Gabor, how is Budapest these days? Because we talked to a friend of ours in Prague yesterday, and it sounds to me like things have gotten going again. Is it crowded? Is it really packed, or is it still slowly picking up?
Yeah. So, but first of all, Budapest is a much larger area, much larger city than Prague. So even when, before COVID, when everything was perfect and let's say the good old days, you didn't feel that the city was packed with tourists, even though we did get a lot of tourists. But, we have these large avenues. It's a really large area, especially here on the Pest side. So you barely ever have this impression that, oh, this is overfishing, Budapest can handle a lot of people, even when it was a lot. So anyway, now I would say the city feels totally back to normal. It's very lively, vibrant. There are a lot of people out, locals and tourists, as well. You can see a lot of cruise ships actually coming in, thank God again. And that's something that we didn't see for almost 600 days during COVID, and now it's back to normal. Not all the ships are full yet. Actually, most of them are not full yet, but at least they are running and they are ready to be full again. It's been really hot here, which is I can deal with that because our winters are pretty cold, so I don't mind the change. just being in tourism, I know that this is still, I wouldn't say half capacity, but I would say 60% capacity, because Asians can't really travel here yet. Obviously Russians can't travel to the EU now, so that audience is not here. Australians haven't come back yet. We have a lot of Europeans, a lot of Americans, and a lot of Canadians, British. So it feels like everything is totally back to normal. I know that when things are totally coming back and all of the clouds are, gone, then there will be more people here than now.
So what you're saying is now's a really good time to travel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
and this is what I found everywhere I've been. I've been in probably 15 countries in the past 6 months, and every place I've gone, it's been, I think, kind of the same, that the people who are a little bit more daring and a little bit more ready to go are going to really benefit from that. They're going to be able to travel and enjoy things without people, I think, more or less.
Yeah, I agree.
And hopefully next year, maybe next year we won't be back to 100% of 2019. Maybe we'll be back to, let's say 75% would be fine for all of us.
I was going to say that. I totally agree with you. 2023 everybody said that's going to be the first normal year. No, I don't think that is going to be the case. But I think we're going in the right direction. And yeah. And we, in tourism now, we have enough business. We're making a decent business. So I'm not in a rush to be at 200% or 100%. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too, because I mean, I feel the same way with our business as well. I feel like we have just the right amount of business right now. Like I feel we're not overwhelmed. We've got the right number of guests. All the tours are booked to a good level, but not overbooked. So yeah, it's kind of, let's just keep it this way.
Yeah, actually,
maybe we shouldn't be promoting. What are we doing promoting?
Well,
okay.
It sounds to me like next year will still be a really good time to go to Budapest. So
yeah, I think so too. So Reed, what are your favorite things about going to Budapest? What do you love?
Gosh, it's such a beautiful city, and Gabor had mentioned the Fishermans Bastion, which it's one of those signature things. I promise you, even if you know nothing about Budapest, if we flashed a picture of that across the screen, you'd recognize it. And then on the Pest side of the river, on the east side, is the Parliament building, and I promise you that every European river cruise company that shows a commercial on television, Viking or whatever, the AMA or whatever, they're showing you a picture of that Parliament building. It's just spectacular. It's a neo-Gothic building with a red dome on it. It's spectacular. Sorry, I don't need to go off on tangents here. Gabor, what is the Fisherman's Bastion? I mean, why was that built up there? Do you know that story? I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I realized I don't really know why that's there. It's just beautiful. It's fun to see. It's fun to photograph. Do you know the story of why that's there?
You did put me on the spot on that. We do. Our company does castle walks. Actually, we do walks in the castle. Not me personally. People who know this much better. The Fisherman's Bastion was built, and maybe I'm wrong here with the exact decade, but it's sort of a newer addition, or a relatively new addition to the castle, because it was built in the late 1800s, I believe, as opposed to let's say older parts were built in the 1500s and even the 13th century. So the Fisherman's Bastion is a later addition. And I think it was sponsored by the Fishermen's Guild, because it's very near the river. Okay. And there was a lot of fishing, back in the days. And it was either sponsored or just simply built after or named after the fishermen that lived and worked in that area, very near the Fisherman's Bastion and on the Danube. And this is what I know, or what I think I know, but again, it's a little bit off my expertise, the architecture.
That was a good answer. I wondered about why they call it the Fisherman's Bastion. You
Mhm.
answered that and when it was. So no, that's really good. All I want to say is it'll be a highlight, I promise, for people
Oh,
to
yeah.
just walk around up there, take pictures, the views across the river. It's really spectacular. I mean, to me, that was the highlight of the Buda side. I mean, the castle is impressive, but you know, it's the Fisherman's Bastion. I think that's, and then the Parliament building is just also spectacular. Is everything open in Budapest?
Everything is totally open. No, you don't need a test to come into the country. Uh, everything is open to locals and non-locals. Right now, you don't need to wear masks. You don't need like a vaccination certificate to go into a restaurant. It's totally back to normal. Thank God.
Including the baths. I know that's one of those things that you kind of should do when you're in Budapest, is to go to one of the public baths that are pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I was gonna actually bring that up. That's another big attraction for Budapest, the Turkish bathhouses. So Budapest is a city of borders, and that's not just the Danube. The Danube is obvious, and it's huge, and it cuts the city in two, and it gives us this amazing panorama. But there are a lot of underground mineral water or mineral streams, and not just mineral, but also, how do you call this, thermal? So warm water coming up from the soil, and we took advantage of this, and we have been taking advantage of this for centuries. And there are probably about at least a dozen different bathhouses in Budapest. Some are really old, going back to the 1500s. Others are newer. Some are only for women, some are only for men. Actually, most of them are co-ed now, so everybody can go in at any time. And yeah, I would say that's almost a must do if you come here, unless you have something against bathing in nice warm water with other people before you go out for a nice meal or a wine tasting. Then I think you should definitely do it. The water is really strong. It has a good amount of sulfur in it, so when you get out of it, you're gonna smell like you were just in the bathhouse. But it's actually really healthy. It revives you. It also makes you hungry and tired, and you'll be hungry, and then you're gonna get an amazing sleep.
Well, yeah, and then you can go for a glass of wine at your wine cellar, and then you'll sleep for a
Yep.
couple of days, right?
Yep. Yeah. That's part of our routine.
So I'm curious, Gabor, do you have any other like projects you're working on with Andrew right now? I think you do, right?
Well, there's a group coming here that we are working on. Well, what we usually do with him is that we advertise tours where we do the Hungary portion,
Yeah.
and then he does the Slovenia portion.
Yes. Slovenia and Hungary. Yep.
Yeah. So it's if you just we are based in Budapest, but this whole sort of Eastern European region is pretty colorful, and one of the many things that makes it a very exciting destination is that you drive 3 hours, 4 hours in any given direction from Budapest, you'll be in another country. So our partner in the south, that would be Croatia, Slovenia, is Andrew. So we always work on these cross-country experiences where we do the Hungary part and he does the Slovenia part. And we are gonna go to Serbia, I believe, in the fall to do some research, and maybe that's the project that you were referring to.
Oh, I know you guys are doing all kinds of things together. And I think you've got an Ottoman Conquest tour next year. And so all of these things can be found on my website, on the Adventures with Sarah website. So you have choices here. Those of you watching, you can travel with me on the Danube cruise and you'll get to see Gabor then. And we'll do a food experience with him. You can go and visit him on your own, or you can look at our catalog and see what other things are going to pass through Hungary. Because I think that Gabor and his company manage all of our Hungary tours. So
Absolutely. Yep.
cool. Well, any other questions you got for him, Reed, today?
Oh, just that I again, I'm remembering, I've only been to Budapest twice, right? Once to set up the tour and get to know the city a little bit, and then the second time when I did the river cruise the first time. There's a lot of bronze statues. There's a lot of public art. Let me just back up and say that. There's a lot of public art. That's one of the things that really impressed me about the city. And each time that I've been there, all of twice, there was something new always. And I just am impressed with a city that values art in that way. But, and again, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Gabor. Is there a story behind all of the bronze statues? There's Nagy on a bridge, and Ronald Reagan is out there, and it's just fun to, I've got pictures of my whole group standing with bronze Ronald Reagan. Do you know the story there, or am I putting you on the spot again?
No, I happen to know the story. Well, I mean, for one thing, yeah, statues and street art is greatly valued here. Not sure where the tradition comes from, but it's been with us, it seems like, for forever. And yeah, there is a square, Liberty Square, where actually the American embassy is located.
Right.
Very near, just about a block away from the parliament, which that square pretty much sums up our really messed up 20th century history. And there is, there's a statue of the Holocaust memorial of the Holocaust there. There's a statue of an American general who saved the National Museum from the Romanian army looting it when they invaded Budapest after World War I. There is the American embassy. There is a Russian or a Soviet monument commemorating what they call the liberation of Hungary in 1945. It's actually covered with these really high. We can't take it off because that was the agreement, when the Soviet army left. So what we did, we surrounded this Soviet monument by these really leafy and tall trees, so you can barely see what's behind it. So there's that monument, and very near that, there's the statue of Reagan, Ronald Reagan, walking towards the parliament, the building of parliament. So walking from the, no, it's not walking towards the parliament. It's coming from the parliament, so towards the Soviet monument. And the statue is sort of life-size, and the Soviet monument is pretty enormous. And Ronald Reagan sort of looks like a cowboy president with, a little dance move, or maybe just, like a cheerful move, but maybe almost taken from his cowboy times, when he was an actor. So this tiny life-size Ronald Reagan statue beat the big Soviet monument. And the historic facts behind this is that he was the president who forced the Soviet Union into the military competition, which, the US won, and which resulted in the bankruptcy of the Soviet Union, which resulted in a democracy in Eastern Europe in 1989, 1990. So without that happening, the changes either wouldn't have happened or would have happened much later. So that's why there's a statue of Ronald Reagan there.
Wow.
Hey, if you don't mind, Sarah, I've got one last thing I want to ask Gabor about, and that's, I know he'll know about this, I'm not putting him on the spot this time. I can't remember the name. What are the name of those bars down by the river? They were old warehouses or whatnot. It's something unique to Budapest. I've never seen it. What am I trying to say?
Yes.
What are those called?
Yeah, you're referring to the ruin bar.
Ruin bars. Yeah. Tell us about those, because that's
We
I've never seen
we
that.
call them romkocsma or ruin bars. Yeah. So these were all warehouses, and in many cases abandoned residential buildings, because this is in the old Jewish area. So because of the Holocaust and later on during communism, a bunch of buildings were abandoned. And after the changes, well, Hungary was a very poor country in 1990s, and many of these buildings were owned by the city, and then they were rented out by entrepreneurs, and they turned them into cheap bars where students were hanging out. And they turned into a huge trend, and actually a huge tourist attraction as well. And now they are, I wouldn't say they are all over that district, but there is about a half a dozen of them at the moment. There used to be more, but now I guess it consolidated a little bit. So there's a good half a dozen of these buildings that are dedicated to drinking and having fun.
Wow.
Yeah, and when you enter, you'll feel like you're walking in a residential property. You can walk around the courtyard, you can walk around the balconies, the different steps, and it's pretty cool. I go there myself. I mean,
they're very comfortable, very welcoming, and
very
that
welcoming.
story of how they sort of got started and why just adds to the experience. I love that.
Wow, very cool. I haven't been there, so that'll be on my list for when we go there in September next year. So very good. Well, I want to thank Reed for joining me today, as always. Thank you, my friend. And you've got something else coming up this week, I think, yes?
Well, we've got this more or less the same time slot. Tomorrow we'll have Gerhard from Vienna. We'll be learning a little bit about Vienna, which is another important stop on the cruise next.
Very good. And Gabor, we're going to be seeing you a lot because you're working on so many projects with Andrew, but for sure, I will see you next September.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I am really looking forward to it.
We'll definitely be in touch about that for sure.
Yeah. So if you want to get in
Let's
touch
do it.
with Gabor, if you're going to Budapest, you want to go to tastehungary.com, not Taste of Hungary, but tastehungary.com. And you can sign up for walking tours. You can find out how to visit his tasting room and also the longer itineraries. And you can find out about those longer itineraries where Andrew collaborates with him on my website at adventureswithsarah.net. So thanks, everybody, and have a good day. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.